But these people are just cancel crazy. It's like, shut up.
But also I think there's a real absence of a important and kind of boring conversation about addiction, because these are also people that are addicted to self-righteous indignation, and we are like, it's cancel culture. It's also a lot of people that are truly addicted to the internet, addicted to the adrenaline they're getting from this, and self-righteous indignation is an addiction like alcohol, drugs, sex, or anything else. So also we have to have compassion for this.
As a comic, what do you think is a cancelable offense? Like, what would you be like?
As a comedian, I think anything on stage or anything that's an attempt of a joke, to me, no matter what it is, no matter how big of a swing you take and you miss, it's okay. It's off the stage stuff. If you do something that's a violation of our societal rules, like you murder someone, you rape someone, you do something like that,
something illegal.
But even that, I'm like, even like stuff like that, my whole thing is like let's say like the Bill Cosby thing. It's like, why did as a citizen, like, why did I even know what was playing out? Like, we have a court of law. Like, he goes to the trial, he goes to the court, he's judged by a jury of his peers, and then he goes and does the appropriate sentence. Why is everything, this trial by Twitter bullshit is very, very, very dangerous and scary.
But it's always happened. It happened at water coolers. It happened in people's homes. Like, and it's tricky. We've always had a version of this. That's the other thing. We've always had the Roman Coliseum.
It's a double-edged sword, because there's a lot of good that comes out of that.
Yes.
But there's also like so much
overcorrection. The behavior does have to change, but I think you have to go super far to come back, and there's just going to be people.
But we ask for change, but we don't allow for the change.
When we go so far and get sanctimonious about it, it makes the people that do need to change not want to learn.
Yes. And
so it shuts people down when we're self-righteous.
And that's the thing. And with the self-righteousness and the narcissism comes, well, if everybody is a criminal, then nobody's a criminal. You know what I mean? If everybody is this piece of shit because of X, Y, and Z, then we all are. It's like, there are people that do bad, heinous things that need to be tried and removed from our society. But I believe when they serve their penalty, whatever our judge, jury of our peers come up with, then they should be allowed back into society. They have now paid for their crime. I feel like, especially doing this episode that I did on my podcast, the Chrissy Chaos podcast with
Don't listen to it.
If you don't want, you don't have to. TT Jerry, who's in jail for 25 years, talking to someone who's like a convict who wants to better their life. He was like, I come out and then I still can't get a job. People still look at me as a criminal, but I paid my 25 years. You asked me, I committed a crime when I was young and I'm sorry for it. And I stayed in jail for 25 years. So why am I still treated like an outcast? And I was like, that's so true. Like, anybody who does anything, I'm not saying you have to give them their exact job back. That's, it's private citizens, whatever. But it's like, to just be like, oh, you're still a fucking piece of shit. Get away from me.
And you can never vote again. It's like, those are the exact people that need to vote. They've been in prison. Yes. They know more about laws than we do.
Yes, absolutely. And according to TT Jerry, they all love Donald Trump, so we need their votes for 2024.
And like, it's just
I think the difference there is that when we cancel celebrities, it's like, oh, you have so much that we don't ever want to see you again because you're fine.
Right.
Whereas like what you're describing is like, that's terrible.
Yeah,
and I think that and look, like it's hecklers. Like, I think hecklers, they don't know the damage they're doing, and I think a lot of people on Twitter, I think a lot of times they don't know the damage they're doing.
Sure.
If I may, like, not to sort of defend people that are intentionally trying to ruin people's lives, but I also think like there's this carelessness, especially among really young people that haven't made mistakes yet, and they don't understand human flaws, and they don't understand you said that dumb thing once because you were trying to impress someone, and you felt like shit when you said, like, you know what I'm saying? It's like half the shit I look back at that I'd probably get canceled for. I'm like, dude, no one thought that joke was worse than, like, trust me. I'm way more mad at myself than you could ever be.
Also, they're living in a different world. They have information we never had. They've only lived this way.
Yes, that's true too.
We didn't. We had different movies, different shows, different jokes.
And they take like one microcosm of a person. Like, I mean, 160 characters in a person's life to define them, and then you make a judgment call on that human being. It's so ridiculous.
I've also never gone out of my way to trash a comedian that I didn't like or an artist or something. It's like the idea of like, I just don't fuck with that person. The idea that people are like, we need to cancel this person that like they're not even fans of. They're just going out of their way to just throw grenades at people they're not. It used to be you just didn't go to the show, you didn't buy their album, you didn't participate.
And it's just kind of like, like with that whole thing, it's like if you're going to be actively out there trying to cancel someone, then it's like you better be squeaky clean yourself, because that camera, that spotlight will always turn back on you, and nobody's perfect. Nobody. I mean, good people do bad things, bad people do good things. I mean, it's just what it is. Fucking Martin Luther King was the greatest person of all time. He used to beat the shit out of his wife. Hitler's a horrible person. He was a vegan and loved animals. Like, what do you want me to tell you? ChristyComedy.com.
So you're just hell bent on getting canceled right now.
Well, it's just because it gets frustratingly annoying sometimes. Where you're like, everybody's a bad person now.
Also, the scale keeps moving. So in 2 years, we could be like, something we thought was correct now.
Yeah.
Could just be wrong.
Be wrong.
By the way, we're allowed to be wrong. It's like canceling John Wayne. Like, what are we? Like,
oh God.
Everyone knows he's an asshole. Like, I don't think anyone does your grandmother's John Wayne poster on her wall bother you so much?
Shut up.
Your grandma has posters on her wall.
I'm just saying, they went after John Wayne for being like racist or whatever, and it was like, of course he was racist. My grandfather said racist shit.
Dude, I get like taking down statues because you don't want to, memorialize things, but it's like you can't erase history. Like my daughter, I will tell my daughter why the Confederacy happened. I will tell her why Nazism happens, so you don't repeat it. But now I feel like this whole movement where it's like,
so she doesn't
just
repeat
erase
it because she would.
She would.
Your daughter would
100%.
Absolutely.
I gave her an Iron Cross for her 5th
Jews.
birthday. I had it signed. No, I'm just like, so that to me, and as comedians, where it's just like, what we do, and I'm just like, man, like these people, because the irony of it is when you go into a room, like when you're not in cyberspace, you're not on the internet, when you go into the room and it's all different people of races, religions, they're all just laughing in unison. So you're like, was it a problem, or is it just a problem in cyberspace in this one realm? Yeah. But the cyberspace realm has implications in reality. So sometimes it gets dangerous where you're like, wait, the person who's tweeting trying to get so-and-so canceled probably doesn't even care about what they did. They're just narcissists. They just want the power for themselves. But they go on the water cooler the next morning and probably have the exact opposite views. But that person's life got fucked up in real life.
Totally.
You know what I mean?
But I will say about comedians, as someone that just brought this conversation up,
I love it.
There is a point where we do have to stop giving it. Like, we're professional complainers, and we're the ones that have blown this out of proportion.
Oh, no, yeah.
So my thing is, like, we complain about Hot Pockets. Like, comedians will complain about anything. Yeah. And so there'll be a couple tweets, quote, canceling someone, and then we'll make it.
Yes.
We'll talk about it on every podcast. We'll retweet it, and it would have probably just gone away had we not exacerbated it.
It always goes away, and now you don't really, at least in our field, you don't get canceled by, Evian Water or some company. You get canceled by other comedians. Now it's other comedians going out there and being like, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you.
Which, by the way, never happened when we were seeing each other every night at comedy clubs.
There you go.
Now that everyone is at home, they're just throwing each other under the bus. Like, we used to have to, it's been interesting to see everybody kind of turn on each other.
Dude, I think most of that stuff is like, I think half the time we're fighting with someone on Twitter too, it's not even real people, dude. I believe 95% of them are Russian bots. I believe it's other countries trying to cause diversion. And
the fact that we're responding to it is just like so silly.
I feel like Sergey in Moscow just laughs his ass off. He's like, he think real.
Also, people are allowed to be upset. Like, that's the other thing. If you're upset about that joke, like, you're allowed to have those feelings.
Then don't come to the show anymore. Unfollow me.
I don't know what your childhood was. I might have walked into shit and triggered you.
Yes.
I mean, Jim Jeffries got knocked out on stage when he made a joke about suicide because someone in the audience, his brother, had just committed suicide. Like, we don't know what shit we're walking into. We don't know what stage of healing you're at. Like, but it's also, it's like, I think if
it's also a comedian's job to adjust with the times. So it does kind of make you a better comic. When you
absolutely.
have to kind of like shift into new things.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Because we can't keep being like, oh, well, in the 50s, we made jokes like, but we don't live in the 50s now.
But also, I've seen it, and that's the audience's job to stop laughing at shit that isn't funny. So we need to grow, and certain shit just isn't funny the way it used to be. Like, because
there are some comics that are like, well, how come I can't? You're like, well, because you just can't now.
You just can't now. Got to figure out a way.
Something else.
But also, it's not funny first. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's also just like, so this comedian went out once I was at the Comedy Store. I think I've told this story on the podcast. I just think it's important. Came out, this was maybe like 2 years ago, and started doing jokes about fat chicks.
Okay.
And it was like bombing. And then a woman just went, hey, can you stop?
I've seen this same comedian do that same joke in Nashville, and the same thing happened.
Wow. So there's a point where the audience will decide. The people not at the show don't need to decide.
Yeah.
The people at the show who saw the context, who saw the crowd that to me is like, now you need to course correct because that's not
It's not working.
But that person doesn't deserve to lose their career over it. You know what I mean?
No, unless they're going to double down on it. There are the comedians who want to fight you on
it. But
which is ridiculous.
Which is
this
crazy.
This is not new. There's always been consequences. Yeah, and a couple hundred years ago, if you're a woman, you just get killed. I mean, there's certain things if you.
I get it.
So it is an interesting thing, and also, I think comedians also need to remember. I said this before, is that the more stuff that's off limits and taboo, the funnier we get.
Oh my God, yeah, it gets harder and harder and harder. And then it starts to weed out people like, you really got to be good now. You know what I mean?
Yes.
You really got to be funny because if the ones who are just on the border, it's like they'll lose their whole career.
So we'll keep there is a way to take risks well-intentioned risks when you're trying to figure out if something is fun. And then you might go, we've done this before, where I'll go down a road and I'm like, this line of thinking is not conducive to a hot,
That's
fresh
the whole
take.
art of being a comedian, is I have to try to say, we all have to try to say that thing that we're not supposed to say, craft it in a way, an artful way that's making everybody laugh and feel comfortable, where we're like stepping to the line or slightly over it, but we have the joke, that left turn, where a lot of times people will just tweet something like, it was just a joke. It's like, no, you just tweeted a slur with exclamation points in the American flag.
Yeah. So my thing
the worst is the mob mentality, because the mob mentality can start to make you feel like, oh, am I a bad person? And then, then you start to like switch it up.
But that's biologically wired into your brain. We are wired to get the approval of the tribe and to get, and also as the reason public speaking makes people so nervous is because on a reptilian primordial level, that meant in tribal times that you were making your case to the tribe.
Right.
You know, there's you're on trial completely. So this that Madness of Crowds book is really good, that explains this mob mentality of like a lot of people. When people go, yeah, fuck him, they feel safer when they do that.
Right.
So we have to recognize that we are wired to do this. We get dopamine when we gang up on someone else because we think we're safer.
Yeah. Well, that's why comedians. That's the worst part. Is like other comedians doing it. That's when it gets really scary.
Well, that's that Schadenfreude
because then
stuff.
It's just like, oh, shit, like.
And comedians, there's a lot of if you fail, I win, which is not true.
It's like the new competition. If you get canceled, I have another job.
Oh, no, there were some people that when the Crystal Lee thing happened, a lot of female comics I know and I've seen the screen grabs who thought that I wouldn't fucking find out that they were talking to journalists trying to throw me under the bus because they thought they would move up in the. It's not how it works.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
But that's why it's good that we all, people need to have something outside of comedy and entertainment, like, whatever it is, like you have your project and I have my family, where it's just like, because the shit just goes away, where I'm just like, ugh, all right, I'll just push my kid in a swing and then it goes away. I'm not going to sit here all day with social media.
But also, you understand we're used to feedback.
Yes.
Like and I think that's part of the reason they sort of, and we will engage with it. A lot of people won't. Like, a lot of people just will not respond to it, ignore it.
Oh,
like,
that's the real problem. Most comedians are comedians because they were bullied or picked on or something. So now when you have confrontation, you're like, well, I have to say something bad.
Oh, but also, dude, I'm made for this.
Like,
fucking
just making it worse,
Let's go. Like, I don't get to do this in my relationships anymore. I don't get to get in fights with people. Like, I've been in recovery. Like, but this is, if you come for me and give me a legitimate reason to defend myself, like, I'm fucking.
Right. You kind of like it because you're kind of like, well, now I have fans and people want to see me and I need some to argue with.
I want to go in the ring. Like, give me any opportunity to fight you. But then, if you're gonna come for a comedian, get ready.
Yeah.
You're coming for a comedian who's going to screen grab your profile and fucking post you.
Yeah, they're coming back.
Yeah,
we're going to come back at you.
We're not scared of confrontation. We're not. And if you try to publicly humiliate one of us, like, I feel like we've been pretty cool about it.
Yeah.
I feel like most people have been pretty cool about it because if you fight back, you're the bully because you're.
Yeah, no, I don't respond to. I mean, it's like the things that people say. It's like every day I get a DM because somebody calling me a negative name. I don't care, dude. Or people are like, "Oh, fuck you, you're not funny."
But
it's
also,
like,
you went out of your way to DM me and say that, dude. I've already accomplished all my dreams. That someone knows me enough to even dislike me.
Yes.
Don't you love that you're not funny? Well, there's a list of people you can click on that follow me. There's a full list of people that think I'm funny.
Yeah, exactly.
But also, like, you love me. You're obsessed. If you leave any comment, you're obsessed with me. You love me, and you're just having a bad day, and you're pulling my pigtails. Like, I negative comments to me is like, I look back when I was like 15 and all my dreams, and if someone told me, hey, you're going to be so in the public eye as a comedian that people are going to be saying I'm going to be like, dude, sign me up.
But think about that, even what we were going back to before. Think about a person, think about what state of your life you have to be in or what kind of person you have to be to comment negatively publicly on anything.
As my therapist would say, sounds like they're in a lot of pain.
Yes, have you ever left a negative comment on anything?
I've never in my life left a negative comment on anything. I've never left a negative Yelp review. I've never done any of that because I'm like, I will just move on with my life. This thing didn't work for me.
But we have big voices and big platforms. Not everybody does.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? I'm just saying it makes people feel.
Well, get on stage.
I'm not saying it's good. I'm saying it. I know.
I mean, never in my whole life have I done it.
But I know why people do it. They feel they're hurting. They're in pain. Like, or they're mean and nasty people, and they have to live their lives, and we get to do this. So
most people just want attention back from the person.
Yeah, but even when I announce,
always when someone says you're an old nasty busted cunt, and I'm like, hey, dude, I hope that worked. Is usually what I'll write.
And they're like,
great.
Oh,
and
sorry, I didn't know you'd see that. It always becomes a conversation.
And you're like,
it's people have a sickness.
Bless your heart. Who the fuck? Like, we need to stop complaining about negative comment. It's so childish of us because comedians' whole thing is we should be able to say whatever the fuck we want, but you can't.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? It's like pick a lane. We have to decide one or the other because we're like, I want to say whatever the fuck I want, whenever the fuck I want.
Pick her.
But you're not allowed to say anything negative about me, but I'm allowed to say anything negative about anyone I want publicly.
Right.
You know, so it's like
that sounds reasonable to me. What's the problem?
Yeah, what's the problem?
As a fan, I think that sounds great.
All you need to shut the fuck up. Because that is really what we do. We go into a room and say no one's allowed to speak. If you speak, security's going to remove you. We are such fucking brats.
I know.
That's a really
I know. This whole podcast, we've been like saying like everyone's a narcissist. It's like we're the ones that go on stage and be like, sit down and listen to me. I have the microphone.
Literally, out of the 1,000 people here, I am the most. Not only that, I'm going to charge you $60 to listen to me speak for an hour.
Yeah.
Complain.
What's that?
To hear me complain.
Yeah, complain. Yeah.
About luxuries.
Yeah.
About how good.
Yeah.
Like,
And then when you say something not, I go, thank you.
Yeah. You just paid $50 for me to read out of a notebook. Because I didn't want to even prepare for my set.
You just, I love that your tickets, you're like, I was like 60, you're like 50.
50, yeah, I'm almost at 60. But no, $48.
Yeah, we asked you to like order shitty food. We asked you to get a babysitter, to find parking for me, to be like, so what else is happening?
Yeah.
Guys, what are you up to?
For me to do crowd
to
work.
To ask you where you're from in your own city.
Yeah, we immediately
so you're from here?
To find out if there's any birthdays in the crowd.
And then you immediately make fun of where they're from. I hate this place. Hated driving here. Hate the club.
They pay you to come watch you trash their city.
Oh God!
I mean, it's like we
deserve to be killed.
Spoiled, and then we're just giving everyone COVID. I mean, we shouldn't.
Yes.
We are awful people.